Hi, my name is Raj Palmer and you're joining us live on the Sunrise Radio Facebook and YouTube channel. Today I've got a very special guest. We've got Imran from Bradford Stories, which is a project run by the National Literacy Trust. But I'll let him introduce himself and the work he does. Thank you for joining us today, Imran.
My pleasure, Raj. Thank you for having us. It's great to be on and have the opportunity to talk about some of the work that we're doing through Bradford Stories, in particular the campaign that we're currently running, which is a World of Bradford Stories. So I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about that. In terms of Bradford Stories, my role within the project as hub manager is to broker this partnership with the National Literacy Trust. So that's a sort of national charity that is concerned with this issue of low literacy nationally. Has been running for 25 years, and Bradford Stories is our sort of local base, if you like, or branch of that in Bradford. It represents a commitment with the charity over this 10-year horizon, where we look at issues of around low literacy and how we can collectively come together and counter some of those. So, you know, the motivations behind that, I learned when I came into this role that, you know, we've got 1 in 7 adults in the UK that have the literacy skills that are expected of an 11-year-old. And when you look at areas of deprivation and poverty, then that exacerbates, you know, it becomes worse. It sometimes can be intergenerational. And I suppose the idea of having the local space and a local hub and a local hub manager, indeed, is about trying to build a campaign and build a network of everybody who's seeing this as an issue that affects us all, and one that we've all got a stake in, sort of, you know, making a difference towards. Reading for enjoyment ultimately is the factor that's going to determine so many outcomes later on in life, and this is about sort of how we do that collectively with schools, with communities, with parents, with businesses, and everybody coming on board to see how we can sort of raise the bar and create a more sort of literate and cultural experience for the families and children who live in Bradford.
Now, there'll be people who are watching or listening to this interview via Sunrise. You mentioned businesses, schools, etc. How can they actually truly help?
Sure. So we have a range of programs that we can broker from, that we do broker from the National Literacy Trust, program teams that can support specific literacy interventions and initiatives. The very simplest is about sort of how we sort of role model and make reading, how we normalize that, you know, sharing of stories and reading and stories and books as something that's every day. So for a business or a community setting or voluntary setting, you know, that happens in lots of different ways. At a very simple level, if I give you the example of the barber shop, which is a business but also sort of a very local business, having books in their waiting area is another place where kids sort of see that it's fine, it's okay, people are reading. There's a number of ways, you know, businesses being able to sort of recognize in terms of how they support their employees for things like childcare, being able to sort of offer initiatives around books to parents that they can take home. They can sort of sponsor a range of different programs. I think the community push is really exciting because it gives us an opportunity to have conversations around what literacy means to different people and how we can come together to support activity in lots of different contexts, in lots of neighbourhoods, in lots of different communities, and promote that through effectively sort of role modelling and allowing it to happen in lots of different and creative ways.
Now this is not a short-term project organised. So how long will it run for?
So I mean, I mentioned this sort of horizon of 10 years, and we're around our halfway mark, if so to speak, with that. And it's sort of about recognizing, you know, the systemic change that we're looking to create is going to take a little bit longer to happen. And, you know, adding capacity to local areas through the people, through the local businesses and local organizations, adding that capacity to schools to sort of create that, the partnerships that help to sustain it will take a little bit longer to create that difference, to create that change in sort of behavior and attitudes, if you like. So it's very much a a long-term vision in that sense. And it's about a coming together of all those elements to try and sort of make that happen.
Now we have posted a video of a lovely young lady reciting a story told by her grandmum. I believe you've got a story as well, or a poem to recite.
It's a short story, yeah. So this is sort of it's something that is a part of my experience growing up, and it's one of those things where, you know, I've realized that actually it's privilege in many ways, because there's a lot of children that won't have the experience of sort of stories and books from a very early age. I'm fortunate that I did, and it was my father telling us stories in my mother tongue, which is Patwari, and he sort of really was a very strong sort of believer in the preservation of that heritage through sort of stories, and he told us those. And, you know, a couple of years ago, we started to look at how we might support volunteers within communities to build ideas around literacy. So, you know, it might be a book group. They might sort of go to their local school and do a bit of reading. They might have some specific events. And in the start of that, we you know, what does the word literacy mean anyway to lots and lots of different people? And we asked that, and this was about sort of trying to myth bust, I'm getting my words mixed up, and demystify what this word means. And at a very basic level, and what we discovered when we said to people, can you remember the earliest memory of a story that was shared with you? And lots of people from lots of different backgrounds, speaking lots of different languages, related to that. And they, you know, they remember the grandparent, they remember a story, they remember something significant that stayed with them. And then we, you know, when we sort of started to explore that a little bit further, and people started sharing stories in their own languages, we thought, you know, wouldn't it be a great idea in a city like Bradford, which is so diverse and multicultural, to be able to sort of give that platform and say, actually, literacy is about all of this, and it's about endorsing and enabling you to preserve your heritage and use your own. It's an asset, you know. Bilingualism is a massive asset when it comes to, you know, the fight against low literacy. And so it's about encouraging people to sort of see their own role through their culture and their language in doing that. Anyway, I digress. So the story, if you want me to sort of share it, I can do.
Yes, please.
And I'll try and sort of make it. I don't know how long we've got, but
take all the time you need.
So I remember vividly, and, you know, the memories that I have of this is that I felt very safe, you know, and that's the sort of this bonding that we can create with our children when we share a book or a story with them is very important. So it's beyond, you know, literacy just at a level of somebody learning a language. It's actually about your well-being as a child. And so the story that my dad used to tell me, and I'm going to actually endeavor to sort of do it off the cuff, because I have sort of tried to keep the tradition alive in some ways through the stories that I tell my own children. And it's a conversation I often have with parents. Sometimes there is some guilt that we feel when our children are not sort of speaking the mother tongue or the home language, because you know, English is a prevalent language. They speak it in school, and sometimes they feel that we lose that. So my children, you know, they don't speak Punjabi at home. However, they do enjoy this story, and I try to still sort of recollect and tell them it. And I remember it from when my dad sort of told me it as well. So yeah, I'm just going to try and sort of just tell you it from memory, so rather than reading, because I do have a printed version of it. So the story is called Chidi Te Kaini Kani, which is the story of the sparrow and the crow. इमरान सहने तो पहले अपने अब्बे की आख्या कि अब्बा जी मारे ना कहानी बहो. उसने अब्बे आख्या चंगा तू लेट ते मैं तो बहुत चंगी कहानी पाना. ते कहानी केड़ी सी? चिड़ी ते कां. एक बहुत उच्चा जिहा बूटा सा. उस बूटे ने सब कोलू अपनी डालियां विच एक कां अपना आलना बनाया, और ओ आलना बहुत बड़ा ते बहुत शानदार सी. काई की इस गल्लै ना घमंड सी कि माड़ा आलना जेड़ा ना सारियां कोलू बड़ा है. उसे बूटे विच थलियां डालियां विच एक चिड़ी अपना आलना बनाया. ओ आलना आला पूरे नहीं सी होया, और चिड़ी की कुछ तीलियां नी लोड़ पेगी सी. उसने तीलियां थुड़ी गईयां सन. वो हिम्मत करी ते सोचनी मैं काहे कोल जां. उसने कोल बड़ा शानदार आलना आ, ओ शायद मी देई छोड़े 2-3 तीलियां. हिम्मत करी ते जानी काहे कोल ते उसकी पूछनी कि भराऊ कोई तीले हैन नहीं देसे. ਕਾਂ ਐਵੇਂ बेला बैठे आसा पहले तो उसने जवाब ही नहीं देता, अगू उसकी डांटियास कि दफा हो जाओ यहां से, मैं बहुत मसरूफ हूं। चिड़ी बेचारी निक्का जिहा मुंह की नीत है अपने आल ने वापस आएगी, रोनी रोनी, सोच नहीं रही कि हुण मैं किथों जासा तीले लोड़ने थी। इतने च तकड़ियों तकड़ियों आसमाने ना रंग बदली गया, नेरी आएगी ते बदल ते बारिश शुरू हुई पी। चिड़ी अपने आल ने चली। कुछ देर बाद बाहर तकनी बारिश जड़ा ना खत्म हो जानी ते चिटका निकली असना बाहर। अपने आल ने तू सिर बाहर कटनी ते उसने सिरै पर फूआ जियां ढैन लगी पैनी और हैरान होनी, सोचनी कि बदल बगैर बारिश को तू आ रही। अपर तकनी ते कह तकनी के कां अपने आल ने बैठा है, उसना आल ना नेरी च भजी त्रुटी गया ते ओह रोना पिया। ਉਹ ਜਾਣੀ ਕਾਇ ਕੋਲ ਤੇ ਉਸकी ਦਿਲਾਸਾ ਦੇਣੀ ਆਣੀ ਕਿਆ ਹੋਈ ਤੇ ਕਾਂ ਰੋਣਾ बेचारा ਆਖਣਾ ਕਿ तूफान विच मारा सारा वालना जड़ा ना बर्बाद हो गया ते हुण मैं क्या कर सकूं। चिड़ी उसकी हमदर्दी देनी, उसकी आखनी ना फिक्र कर, हाँ चाह पी। फिर उन्हां दोवां दी दोस्ती होनी। एक दोए मिली ते अपने कां बल्कि अपनी पिछलियां गल्लां पर शर्मिंदा होया। वो आना कि मैं कितना माड़ा हां ते तू कितनी चंगी है। ते आनी कोई गल नहीं, असां कट्ठियों जड़ा ना अपने हाल ने बनाने। पहले दोए मदद करने काए ने आल ने बनाने च, वो इस दफा अपना आल ना इतना उच्चा नहीं बनाना और इतना शानदार भी नहीं बनाना, थोड़ा जिहा थल्ले थोड़ा जिहा हिसाब नाल अपना आल ना बनाना और उस तीलियां बची भी जानियां ते इस तरह तीली ना कम भी चिड़ी ना कम भी पूरा हो जाना। ते कुछ देर बाद चिड़ी अपने आल ने 2 अंडे देनी, उन्हां अंडियां चों बच्चे निकले। वो बच्चे काए की मामू कां आखने ते ओह उन्हां की चंगियां चंगियां कहानियां पाना। एक रोज चिड़ी दाने वगैरह किन्ने थी बच्चों वास्ते बाहर जानी ते बच्चे अपने आलने विच सुते होने। तकड़ियों तकड़ियों जड़ा ना उथों एक बिल्ली लंघनी, जेड़ी चिड़ी ने आलने दर बड़ियां भुखियां अखां नाल तकनी। वो बल्ले बल्ले जड़ा ना आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बूटे पर चढ़नी। चिड़ी ने बच्चियां की जड़ा ना वो खान लगी ते थोड़ी देर और होनी ते वो बच्चे खाई जाए यार। लेकिन अल्लाह कीता कि निक्के ने जड़ा ना अख खुली गई ते उन्हें तकी कीता ते उन्हें डंड बाई दी कि मामू कहां बिल्ली आई। कहां उस वेले जड़ा ना उडरी ते बिल्ली की पई जाना। एक चुंज उसने जड़ा ना नकै पर मारना, एक उसने सिरै पर मारना और कां दी चुंजा इतनी डाढ़ियां सन कि बिल्ली की होश ना रही ते वो नसी गई ते फिर वापस नहीं आई। ते चिड़ी वापस असनी, बच्चे उसकी जड़ा ना सारी गल दसने कि बिल्ली आई सी, मामू कहां आए असा की बचाया। ते वो फिर कां ना शुक्रिया अदा करनी ते कां आखना कोई गल नहीं, है ते माड़ा फर्ज सा। फिर जड़ा ना बच्चे लेटी रहने ते राती जड़ा ना वो पूछने चिड़ी की के मामा मामा असा की जड़ा ना कहानी बासो। ते उन्होंने फिर मामा आखनी कि चंगा तुसां लेटो ते मैं तुसां की एक बूं चंगी कहानी बानी है। ते कहानी केड़ी सी कि एक जाकर सा, उसका नाम सा इमरान, लेकिन ये एक और कहानी है।
Well done. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I mean, the gist of the story for non-sort of Punjabi Patwari speaking people is about sort of, you know, friendship and sharing, and it's about sort of what you pride and letting go of your pride and being happy with your house and helping each other, and it's told through this sort of this short folk tale, which actually since I sort of started sharing it, I've discovered that people have versions of a similar story in different South Asian languages as well. So there you go. That was Chidi and the Khan.
Thank you very much, Imran. Now, for those who maybe want to get involved or have a story to tell, how can they go about doing that?
Absolutely, yes. So if you log on to the campaign, A World of Bradford Stories has been running for 2 weeks now. We've got another 2 weeks worth of programs and activities, which translates through stories like the one you heard. And we want to encourage as many people from different communities and parents to get involved and share stories in their home languages. It could be a poem. It could be some insights into literacy in your sort of cultural context that we're really interested to hear about. So we We create that through sort of videos that we post. Our Facebook page is Bradford Stories, so go on there, get in touch with us through there, send us a message, tell us about anything that you want to sort of represent in terms of your stories that you might have heard when you were younger yourselves that you share now, or a particular poem or something significant to literacy in a particular cultural context. Anything that you want to share. We've still got a range of languages and resources and activities coming up over the next 2 weeks that involves everything from tips for parents to research around the benefits of bilingualism, how we can make the most of that asset, how children can benefit from that, and then some really nice sort of representation in lots and lots of different languages. So just this morning we had a retelling of a picture book in Bangla. It was so lovely to hear. I don't understand the language, but it's very rhythmic, and it was interesting to try and sort of pick out any words that sounded familiar and follow the story in that way. But I think that the really nice thing that we've found through this is that the platform enables people to sort of feel confident because and comfortable because we're asking to share stories in their language, and that helps us to sort of create this empathy, because we can hear stories from lots of different cultures, we can understand them, and we can also have an opportunity to share our own. So people have engaged really well, and we want to encourage lots more content. So get in touch with us through the Bradford Stories Facebook page.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Imran, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Thanks for having us, Raj. Yes.
Take care.
You too.